Have you ever found yourself reaching for a comforting bowl of soup, believing it must be a healthy choice, only to wonder if all that flavor might be coming from an overload of salt? Many seniors face this question, especially when heart health becomes more of a priority after 65. It can be frustrating to discover that a food you've long considered wholesome could be contributing to high blood pressure or other cardiovascular issues. This is a challenge shared by countless older adults who want the warmth and satisfaction of a hearty meal without feeling guilty, or worse, risking their health in the process. One of the major reasons this matters is that our bodies become more sensitive to sodium's effects as we age. What didn't bother us in our 40s might now cause noticeable bloating, spikes in blood pressure, or persistent thirst that disrupts sleep. The good news is that there are ways to prepare soup that keep the salt in check while delivering just as much taste and nourishment. In fact, knowing how to create flavorful, low-sodium soups can have ripple effects on overall heart health, mobility, and even mental well-being by helping you feel in control of your diet. It's empowering to realize that you don't have to give up comfort foods you love. You only need to make a few adjustments that can genuinely enhance your quality of life. Over the next few minutes, we will explore 5 low-sodium soups that support heart health after 65. Each soup option challenges a common assumption, that soup must be heavily salted to be palatable. We'll break down those misconceptions and replace them with a new perspective drawn from nutritional guidelines and the real-life experiences of seniors who found ways to reclaim both flavor and health. You'll discover simple steps for reducing sodium without sacrificing taste, how to incorporate heart-friendly ingredients, and why these choices matter so much for maintaining energy, independence, and overall vitality. By the end of this conversation, you'll be equipped with knowledge that can transform the way you think about soup. Instead of reaching for high-sodium canned options, you'll have the confidence to create or select recipes that satisfy your taste buds and care for your heart. And if you've ever felt uncertain about changing your diet at this stage of life, rest assured that small shifts can make a significant difference. Just imagine the satisfaction of enjoying a delicious, homemade soup that helps you feel lighter, more energetic, and well on your way to a healthier cardiovascular system. If any of this resonates with you, or even if you're a bit skeptical, I invite you to join me in exploring these 5 low-sodium soup ideas. You might be surprised at how little you'll miss the salt when you discover the depth of flavor that fresh herbs, wholesome vegetables, and quality proteins can deliver. Take a moment to reflect on how much you enjoy a comforting bowl of soup. Wouldn't it be wonderful if each spoonful nourished not just your appetite, but your heart as well? Let's dive right in and see how it can be done. Let's start by looking at a classic staple that many people think they know everything about: vegetable soup. Most of us assume it's healthy by default, but the reality can be quite different once we account for hidden sodium. Take Jerome, a 72-year-old retiree who believed he was making a smart choice by eating store-bought vegetable soup several times a week. He never added salt himself, so he assumed there was no problem. Over time, though, he noticed that he felt bloated after these meals, and his doctor mentioned that his blood pressure readings were edging higher. Jerome was surprised to learn that a single can of vegetable soup could contain almost as much sodium as the daily recommended limit for older adults. That was a wake-up call. Instead of giving up on his comforting ritual, Jerome decided to make a few key changes. First, he switched to a low-sodium broth. Second, he added aromatic herbs, rosemary, thyme, and bay leaves, to enhance flavor without relying on salt. And finally, he bulked up the soup with lentils, a heart-healthy source of protein and fiber that brought additional richness without spiking sodium content. Evidence suggests that high-fiber soups can contribute to better heart health by promoting stable blood sugar levels and aiding digestion, which indirectly benefits cardiovascular wellness. The simple act of choosing a low-sodium vegetable broth, combined with wholesome ingredients like lentils and fresh produce, can reduce overall sodium intake significantly. This switch didn't just help Jerome manage his blood pressure, it also improved how he felt day to day. Without the heavy salt load, he had more energy and fewer episodes of uncomfortable water retention. For those who want to try this approach, start by reading the nutrition labels on your favorite broths. Look for low sodium or no salt added versions. If you enjoy the convenience of canned vegetables, Choose the low-sodium options or rinse them thoroughly to remove excess sodium. Flavor the soup with onions, garlic, thyme, oregano, or rosemary to add complexity that salt alone can't replicate. Consider adding beans, lentils, or barley for extra nutritional value. Each spoonful will not only warm you up, but also provide key nutrients like potassium, which helps balance sodium levels in the body. One of the benefits that often surprises people is the emotional boost. Jerome said he felt more confident preparing a soup that he knew was good for his heart. He even started sharing his recipe with friends, which sparked a new hobby for him, experimenting with different herb combinations. It turns out that taking charge of one's diet can reignite creativity and a sense of purpose, especially after retirement. Next time you reach for vegetable soup, think of it not as a bland, tasteless option, but as a canvas for vibrant flavors that can truly uplift both your taste buds and your overall well-being. If you've ever tried a low-sodium soup recipe you truly loved, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to share in the comments how you've managed to replace salt without losing the delicious qualities that make soup so comforting. Let's keep the conversation going by moving on to our second heart-friendly soup idea. Another beloved classic that often gets loaded with salt is chicken soup. Many people assume that simmering chicken with store-bought broth automatically makes for a nutritious meal, and that may have been partially true when you were younger. However, as we get older, our bodies may not handle sodium as efficiently, and a once reasonable level of salt might now be too high. Consider Barbara, 68, who grew up on homemade chicken soup. She prided herself on passing down her mother's recipe to her grandchildren. The problem was that her mother's recipe involved liberal amounts of salt and bouillon cubes, which are often sodium bombs. Barbara noticed that her ankles would swell after a big bowl, and her heart would sometimes feel as if it were beating too quickly. She initially blamed these sensations on simply getting older, but her doctor explained that sodium could be a significant contributing factor. When Barbara learned that some bouillon cubes contain up to 50% of the recommended daily sodium intake in just one cube, she was shocked. She decided to adapt her family recipe. She switched to a low-sodium chicken broth, used fresh chicken pieces, and added barley instead of noodles. Barley brings a hearty texture and a wealth of nutrients, including soluble fiber, known to help lower LDL, bad cholesterol levels. She also threw in extra carrots, celery, and onions for flavor, relying on herbs like parsley and thyme in place of salt. The result was a soup that retained the comforting essence of her mother's recipe, but supported her heart health far better. The new perspective here is that flavor in chicken soup doesn't have to come from salt alone. A quality protein source, like lean chicken breast or skinless thighs, and the natural sweetness of vegetables can create a full-bodied taste profile. By cutting down on sodium, you allow other flavors to shine through. In fact, many seniors find they rediscover their taste buds when they reduce high-salt foods. Their palate adjusts, making them more appreciative of subtle flavors and fresh ingredients. On a practical level, the steps are straightforward. Begin with a low-sodium or homemade chicken stock if possible, then add fresh herbs. For those who want a bit of depth, consider adding a splash of apple cider vinegar or a hint of lemon juice at the end. These acidic elements help balance flavors and create brightness without resorting to salt. If mobility or stamina is a concern, you can prepare the soup in a slow cooker, reducing the need to stand for long periods. Just toss in the ingredients and let the machine do the work. This approach is especially useful if you have difficulty standing at the stove, but you still want the comfort of a homemade meal. From an emotional standpoint, Barbara felt empowered preserving her family's tradition in a healthier form. She realized that age-related changes didn't mean giving up cherished recipes. It meant adapting them. When she served her revised soup to her grandchildren, they barely noticed the difference. Proof that taste can still be deeply satisfying without all that extra sodium. Barbara's ankles now swell less frequently, and she reports feeling more in control of her heart health. Now that we've tackled two classics, vegetable soup and chicken soup, let's look at a soup that many people assume can't be tasty without heavy cream or a lot of salt to bring out the flavor. Before we do, I'm curious. Have you tried any techniques, such as adding vinegar or lemon juice, to enhance flavor without increasing sodium? If so, what was your experience like? Moving beyond the familiar territory of chicken and veggie soups, let's talk about a creamy cauliflower and potato soup. The misconception here is that creamy soups must rely on either dairy or salt-laden thickening agents for richness and flavor. In reality, a velvety texture can be achieved in far more heart-friendly ways, especially important for those of us carefully watching sodium intake. Meet Dolores, a 70-year-old who loves the texture of cream-based soups, but felt guilty every time she indulged. Traditional recipes often call for generous amounts of butter, cream, and pre-salted soup bases. Dolores also struggled with borderline high blood pressure, so she worried that these ingredients might be raising her numbers even more. Yet the craving for something smooth and comforting didn't go away. Her turning point came when a dietitian recommended roasting her vegetables first to bring out their natural sweetness. Dolores learned that slowly roasting cauliflower, onions, and even potatoes can deepen their flavors significantly. Once roasted, she placed them in a pot with a low-sodium vegetable broth and let them simmer. Instead of adding heavy cream, she used a small amount of low-fat milk or even plain Greek yogurt at the end, blending everything until it reached the perfect velvety consistency. A pinch of nutmeg and fresh chives provided an unexpected pop of flavor. She was amazed by how creamy the soup felt without relying on large amounts of dairy or salt. This approach reflects research suggesting that simple cooking techniques can dramatically reduce the need for salt while intensifying the natural taste of foods. Roasting vegetables caramelizes their sugars, giving them a sweet, savory depth that conventional boiling or steaming can't match. It's a strategy that helps many seniors discover a new love for vegetables they once considered bland. And from a nutritional standpoint, cauliflower is rich in vitamins and antioxidants, while potatoes offer potassium that can balance sodium levels in the body. Dolores also found emotional benefits in this cooking method. She felt less restricted, as though she didn't have to sacrifice flavor for the sake of her heart health. By experimenting with roasting and blending, she discovered not only a new favorite soup, but a sense of liberation. No longer did she see low-sodium guidelines as an impossible rulebook. Instead, they became a creative challenge. She shared her newfound technique with friends in her senior community, inspiring them to explore different vegetables, like butternut squash or carrots, in a similar roasting and blending fashion. If you want to try a low-sodium creamy soup, remember that small touches of strong flavors can make a big difference. Herbs like chives, spices like nutmeg or paprika, and roasted garlic can all elevate your soup to gourmet status. Avoid adding salt automatically. Taste as you go. You may find that the natural flavors emerging from roasted vegetables are more than enough. Let's move on to another variety that often evokes the flavors of a sunny coastline, but can be just as high in hidden sodium. After learning about the power of roasting, have you already started thinking of new ways to transform some of your old favorites? Now consider a Mediterranean chickpea soup. Many seniors believe that Mediterranean-inspired dishes are automatically healthy. And while this cuisine can indeed be heart-friendly, a lot of restaurant versions or canned options come with a heavy dose of salt. A friend of mine, Raphael, 73, found that even when he ordered what seemed like a wholesome chickpea soup at his local eatery, he would end up with puffy fingers and a higher number on the scale the next morning. That's a classic sign of excessive sodium intake leading to water retention. Raphael's misconception was that because olive oil, tomatoes, and chickpeas are generally good for you, the dish must be fine overall. The hidden culprit was often store-bought broth and seasoned tomato sauce packed with salt. When he decided to cook this soup at home, he adopted a fresh approach. He used dried chickpeas soaked overnight, reducing the sodium that often accompanies canned beans, and made his own no-salt-added tomato sauce by simmering fresh tomatoes with onions, garlic, and basil. He also tossed in spinach toward the end of cooking to add extra vitamins and minerals. The small addition of lemon zest brightened the dish, and a touch of good quality olive oil at the finish gave it a luxurious feel. The result was a hearty, flavorful soup that captured the essence of the Mediterranean diet, high in fiber, healthy fats, and micronutrients, without the sodium overload. There's solid reasoning behind this method. The Mediterranean diet has been praised for its benefits in reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. Core ingredients like chickpeas, rich in protein and fiber, tomatoes, abundant in antioxidants like lycopene, and olive oil, full of heart-healthy monounsaturated fats, collectively support better heart health. However, the diet's positive reputation can lull us into complacency, making us forget to watch for hidden sodium sources. By soaking your own chickpeas, skipping salty canned tomatoes, and using fresh herbs, you dramatically cut back on unnecessary salt. Emotionally, Raphael felt a renewed bond with his cultural roots. He recognized that real Mediterranean cooking focuses on fresh ingredients and bold flavors from herbs, not just spoonfuls of salt. He began enjoying his meals more and noticed his rings fitting more comfortably on his fingers. This sense of physical relief, combined with his cultural pride, boosted his overall outlook. He realized that a small effort in the kitchen can yield big rewards for both taste and health. For those interested in trying a Mediterranean-style soup, start by substituting dried beans for canned. If dried beans seem too time-consuming, at least opt for no salt added or low-sodium canned chickpeas and give them a good rinse. Focus on layering flavors with onions, garlic, herbs, and perhaps a splash of red wine vinegar or lemon juice. This creates a complexity that salt alone can't achieve. If mobility is an issue, you can simplify the process by buying pre-chopped vegetables or using kitchen gadgets designed to make chopping easier. We have one more soup to explore, but before we dive into that final heart-friendly recipe, take a moment to think about a favorite dish from your cultural background. Could it be adapted to a lower sodium version by focusing on fresh ingredients instead of packaged or canned ones? For our final offering, let's talk about a tomato and white bean soup with basil. Many seniors assume that any tomato-based soup is going to be tangy and might require extra salt to balance it out. Tom, a 67-year-old who loved the classic canned tomato soup of his youth, held this belief. He always added a full teaspoon of salt to his homemade tomato soups, thinking it was essential to counter the acidity. What Tom didn't realize was that a few alternative choices could manage the soup's acidity without turning to sodium. First, he discovered that using fresh or low-sodium crushed tomatoes gave him more control over flavor. He then added a pinch of baking soda, a culinary trick that neutralizes acidity instead of extra salt. The magic ingredient for depth was fresh basil, added just before serving so it wouldn't lose its fragrance. And for a protein boost, Tom introduced tender white beans. Cannellini beans work especially well. The result was a velvety soup that offered a perfect balance of sweet, savory, and herbal notes, without a spike in sodium levels. Tom's story showcases how creativity in the kitchen can help break old habits. He once believed that salt was the only way to fix an overly tangy tomato base, but the combination of baking soda, basil, and quality beans turned out to be the real game changer. It also helped him meet his daily protein goals, especially vital for muscle maintenance as we age, while keeping his heart health on track. From an evidence-based perspective, beans are an excellent source of fiber, which plays a key role in cholesterol management. Tomatoes, rich in antioxidants, support overall cardiovascular health by reducing oxidative stress. Fresh basil adds not just flavor, but also some beneficial phytochemicals. When you reduce sodium, you're doing your entire body a favor, especially the heart, kidneys, and blood vessels that work harder to process high-salt meals. The emotional benefit for Tom was discovering he could still savor his beloved tomato soup, but in a form better suited to his life after 65. He found himself enjoying meal prep more than ever, trying different bean varieties, tossing in chopped spinach, or sometimes sprinkling a bit of cheese on top for a richer taste. The knowledge that he was doing something good for his heart added a layer of satisfaction that elevated the whole experience. If you're worried about the tanginess of tomatoes, try a small pinch of baking soda or sugar, or consider adding roasted carrots to sweeten the soup naturally. Check your beans to ensure they're labeled low sodium, and rinse them if they're canned. You might be amazed at how little salt you truly need once you learn to layer flavors with fresh herbs and hearty plant-based proteins. We've now explored 5 different low-sodium soups that can support heart health after 65, each one proving that flavorful comfort and responsible salt usage don't have to be at odds. By now you've likely noticed that the key theme is creativity, finding ways to draw out the natural flavor of quality ingredients while minimizing sodium. Think back over what we've covered. Replacing store-bought broths with low-sodium or homemade alternatives, enriching soups with roasted vegetables and fresh herbs, incorporating hearty beans and grains, and experimenting with small amounts of acidic or balancing agents like lemon juice, vinegar, or baking soda. These are relatively simple changes, yet their impact on heart health can be significant over time. You might be wondering why it's so important to focus on these details right now. The truth is, every bowl of soup that's too salty doesn't just affect your immediate comfort, it accumulates, contributing to fluid retention and higher blood pressure, factors that are particularly risky in older adults. You want to enjoy your retirement years feeling energetic, mobile, and free of the nagging worries that come from poorly managed heart risks. Making these soup choices may seem like a small step, but consistency adds up. Envision how your daily routine could look if you start incorporating these low-sodium options. Imagine fewer incidents of waking up at night feeling parched, less swelling in your ankles, and steadier blood pressure readings at the doctor's office. Picture yourself preparing a soup and sharing it with a friend who compliments you on how flavorful it is, only to be surprised when you reveal how little salt it contains. These scenarios aren't about unrealistic transformations overnight. They're about the steady cumulative improvements that come from daily, mindful decisions. If you feel ready to take action, start with one soup. Maybe you try the creamy cauliflower and potato approach or the tomato and white bean version. If you're up for more involvement, experiment with all five. Write down what worked well, note any adjustments, and pay attention to how your body responds. If you want to deepen your commitment, share your successes or challenges with friends, family, or an online community of like-minded seniors. You could even organize a small soup club in your retirement community, inviting others to bring their low-sodium creations and swap ideas. And if you're someone who wants to stay informed but isn't quite ready to jump in the kitchen just yet, that's okay too. Perhaps your next step is simply reading nutrition labels more carefully the next time you shop. By doing so, you're already taking an active role in your health. After all, education is the first step toward empowerment. Above all, remember that these choices are yours to make. No one is forcing you to give up flavor or convenience. You're simply shifting your approach to protect and nourish your heart. Think of it as a meaningful investment in the years ahead, giving you the chance to continue doing what you love, spending time with family, exploring hobbies, and enjoying life's simple pleasures with greater peace of mind. So what's next for you? If you found this information valuable, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. Or go one step further and actually cook a pot of soup, then tell a friend what you did differently to reduce sodium. Small actions can trigger big changes, not just for you, but for others in your circle who are also looking to improve their heart health. You possess a lifetime of wisdom and experience, and these adjustments aren't about restricting your enjoyment. They're about enhancing it. It's entirely possible to remain vibrant, engaged, and confident well beyond 65. By making mindful decisions, like creating delicious low-sodium soups, you lay the groundwork for a healthier, more fulfilling chapter of life. The next bowl you savor can be as nourishing for your spirit as it is for your heart. And that's a wonderful feeling to carry with you every day.